Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on this really beautiful fall day. There's a lot of really cool things going on around Bucks County today, so hopefully you'll be able to get out and enjoy the day. And also, hopefully you were able to tune in to our announcements this morning. We do have 3 important fundraisers going on: our Christmas wreath sale, our clothing drive, and our gift cards. And they all mean a lot to our financial well-being for the congregation, so please check them out in your e-newsletter. So also, please, as always, put your Zoom setting in the speaker view for your best viewing experience. So welcome. Welcome to this congregation, where for over half a century now, we have been seeking to foster community, to grow our spirits, to serve others, and to work for justice. We are very glad that you have joined us this morning in our sacred cyberspace, and we hope that here you will experience love, acceptance, and hopefully inspiration. After our service, please feel welcome to stick around for fellowship and conversation. Our monthly Touchstone themes strive to help us shape our days and guide our journey. This year's overarching theme is repairing the world, and our October topic is reverence. The world-shaking and world-changing revelation for Albert Schweitzer was reverence of life as a first principle in 1915 while on a barge on the Agawi River as the barge made its way through a herd of hippos. Not just reverence for humanity, as important as that is, but reverence for all life on the planet. It is out of such reverence that the desire to repair the world is born. Our sermon today is from Mark Bernstein, who is one of our very favorite guest speakers. And Mark has been a faithful member of the UU Church of Delaware County for nearly 28 years. He's a former staff member of the Central East region of the UUA and currently works as adjunct staff for the region, providing training and consultative services to congregations. He considers UUFLB to be his second spiritual home. The title of his sermon today is Going Platinum. Showing reverence for another human being is deeply embedded in our Unitarian Universalist principles. But what does it mean to show reverence? And why is it important, particularly during these stressful, inequitable, and polarizing times? Now, let us enter into worship together. It is now my extreme pleasure to introduce our amazing musician and amazing human being, Mr. Avi Wisnia.
Good morning. This opening song reminds us to show each other a little bit more respect, a little more love. We're afraid to be idle, so we fill up the days. We run on the treadmill, keep slaving away, till there's no time for talking about trouble in mind, and the doors are all closed between your heart and mine. More love. I can hear our hearts crying, more love. I know that's all we need, more love to flow in between us, to take us and hold us and lift us above. If there's ever an answer, it's more love. they'll be happy when they settle their scores. No, let's lay down our weapons that hold us apart. Be still for a minute, try to open our hearts with more love. I can hear our hearts crying more love. I know that's all we need, more love to flow in between us, to take us and hold us and lift us above. If there's ever an answer, it's more love. I can hear our hearts crying more love. I know that's all we need, more love to flow in between us, to take us and hold us and lift us above. If there's ever an answer, if there's ever an answer, it's more love.
Wow, what a great song and a great sentiment. We do need more love. Thank you, Avi. Please feel free to join me as I read our chalice lighting words. We light our chalice this morning, grateful for the love that we experience in this beloved community. May this flame light our way to inner peace, to love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Now our opening words this morning. Reverence is a deep sense of respect for marvels that surround us and that brought us into existence. It is an awareness of ourselves in an order beyond the grasp of any single human mind. Now we have a great message for all ages that was picked out for us by our religious exploration coordinator.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Beck Stout, and our story for all ages today is called The World Needs More Purple People by Kristen Bell and Benjamin Hart. Ta-da! Follow my guide to become a purple person. How to be a purple person by Penny. Now you may be asking yourself, why in the whole wide world would I want to be purple? Purple is a magic color made when red and blue work together. I think all the best things in the world are purple. But you're probably wondering, what does that have to do with people? Wow, are you a genius because you're already on your way to becoming a purple person? You want to know why? Step 1, ask really great questions. My dad says purple people ask great questions, questions about everything, even questions about questions. Hey Dad, how far away is outer space? Have you ever met a dolphin? How many dolphins live in outer space? Purple questions are the kind that help you learn something really big about the world or something really small about another person. How tall is the world's tallest rainbow? What's your bear's name? Charlie. My dad says, the more purple questions you ask, the more purple you become. How many do you think there are? He also says I can only ask him 20 questions about space dolphins per day. Step 2, laugh a lot. My grandma says purple people laugh a lot. We are always laughing together. I mean, like snot out our nose laughing. We laugh at books. We laugh at jokes. How do you make a tissue dance? Put a little boogie in it. We laugh at donkey dances and hairy elephant knees. We especially laugh at Grandpa's funny noises. Purple laughing helps us remember the things we share and forget what we thought made us different. And it's almost impossible to be angry when you are laughing. Try it, I dare you. Grandma says the more purple laughing you do, the more purple you become. She also says Grandpa's noises are her favorite funny noises in the whole wide world. Step 3, use your voice and don't lose your voice. Mom says purple people use their voice and don't lose their voice. She encourages me to use my voice to sing. My dad is the one with the hairy chest who loves me more than all the rest. To give good ideas, Let's wear monster costumes to school and to share my opinions. I personally feel like we shouldn't have to eat Brussels sprouts because they smell like sweaty socks. Sometimes people lose their voice, and that's okay. It happens. A purple voice helps someone who is having trouble finding their own voice. Purple people don't just speak up, they listen too. Maybe you could tell them that you don't like it when they call you that name. Want me to help you tell them? My mom says, the more you use a purple voice, the more purple you become. Hey, Mom, can you help me with my play? She also says that she heard my opinion on Brussels sprouts, but I still have to eat them. I'm going to work on a better argument. Step 4, work hard, super duper hard. My grandpa says purple people know how to dig in and get stuff done. He and I like to work hard while we build things and while we learn things and while we grow things. Purple work is the kind of work that's done together to change something that needs changing. What do we want? More playgrounds. When do we want them? Now. Fix something that needs fixing or help someone who needs helping. Grandpa says the more purple work you do, the more purple you become. He also says that purple work has never been done while sitting on your backside sipping strawberry lemonade. Are you ready for the last step? Are you ready? Are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? Are you really, really ready? Okay, drum roll, please. Step 5, paint yourself purple. Just kidding. That's not the way to become a purple person. Actually, being a purple person has nothing to do with what you look like. My teacher says purple people look all sorts of ways. They are big and small, old and young. Some wear cool coats, some wear shorts with lots of pockets, and some wear funny hats. She says some purple people feel blue sometimes and red other times, and some purple people even have green hair. Step 5, just be the real you. Like my teacher always says, purple people come in every color you can dream up and every size you can think of. The only way to be purple is to just be you, because you are the only you we've got. So those are my surefire steps to turning into purple per se. Wait a minute. You ask really great questions. You laugh a lot. You use your voice all the time. You are a really hard worker and you are totally you. Well, I'll be a llama's mama. You've been beautifully purple this whole time. I'm sure glad you are a purple person, because the world needs more purple people just like you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope everyone enjoyed the story.
Thank you, Bex. What a great story. I think our congregation is full of purple people. For our interlude this morning, Avi has chosen a classic by Louis Armstrong.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of a white, bright blessed day, and the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the skies, are also on the faces of the people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry crying. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the skies, are also on the faces of the people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Thank you, Avi. That was really beautiful. It is now my honor and my privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Mark Bernstein, for his reading.
Thank you, Gil. Good morning, everyone. Nice to be back with you on this beautiful but rather chilly, finally, fall morning. This morning's reading is an excerpt from the UUA Commission on Institutional Change, which was released in spring of 2017. We begin with the premise that the values of Unitarian Universalism cannot be realized in a system that is centered around one cultural expression. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, two pillar principles invite us to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all people, and to acknowledge the interdependent web of existence of which we are all a part. Systems, policies, practices, and expressions of Unitarian Universalism that has one racial or cultural group above others make a mockery of these two core values. And so we are called into efforts to name and change them as acts of witness to a fuller and authentic expression of this faith. So ends the reading.
Thank you, Mark. For our offertory this morning, the split plate recipient for the month of October is the International Refugee Assistance Project, the IRAP. Due to the dire plight of the Afghan refugees, the IRAP aims to stand up for these people with focus on getting the families back together. While in Afghanistan, the United States relied on the life-saving assistance of thousands of Afghans who put themselves in danger to help U.S. troops, diplomats, and contractors. They provided essential linguistic, cultural, and geographic knowledge at their own peril, and now they need our help. The IRAP supplies systemic advocacy, zealous casework, and strategic litigation. As always, you can donate using our website or our weekly e-newsletter, or you can just send a check to the office. So please be generous. And now Mark will give his sermon, Going Platinum.
Thank you, Gil. Since the COVID-19 pandemic began some 20 months ago, although it seems like it's been going on for 20 years, doesn't it? I have conducted numerous training classes via Zoom. My standard practice was to request attendees keep their webcams on throughout the training session. After all, if we're going to have a dialogue, we should be able to see each other's faces, right? And parenthetically, that way I can be sure that they haven't walked away from the computer or are engaging in behavior that would distract them from the class that I'm teaching. I was asking people to do this because primarily it benefited me. I thought it was reasonable, and it was what I would do if the situation were reversed and I was one of the students. A couple of weeks ago, I was schooled by a couple of participants in my class about the perils of virtual learning, and specifically that excessive online use can be psychologically and physically unsafe to some people. One person told me that after about 45 minutes on Zoom, she begins to experience vertigo, and that if she doesn't disengage, it could lead to a migraine headache. A second person who shared that they have social anxiety disorder indicated that they become increasingly anxious and hypervigilant as they participate in online conferencing, leading to extreme exhaustion. A Google survey I then conducted confirmed that while results are still inconclusive, there is a definite link between online conferencing and anxiety, dizziness, headaches, and fatigue. So with this new knowledge, I changed my quote unquote rules of engagement in my training classes. Use of webcams now is optional. I take more frequent breaks, at least one break per hour. I advise people to use the hide view function in Zoom, where we can see them, but they can't see themselves. I am modifying my training so that it is not primarily benefiting me, but benefiting the people who attend my classes. Before I got woke, a term, by the way, that was added to the dictionary in 2017, I was setting rules in my training based on how I wanted to be treated. I was following the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or more simply, treat others the way we want to be treated. But when I became sensitized to the potential issues related to online conferencing and affected the changes that I described, I was implementing the platinum rule. Do unto others as they want done unto them, or more simply, treat others the way they want to be treated. Following the golden rule is nice. It's respectful, it's considerate. It requires kindness and sensitivity and compassion. But to truly show reverence for another, only the platinum rule will do. In this morning's message, I want to focus on the need to show reverence, not necessarily toward individuals, not on a one-to-one basis, but how we show reverence, how we apply the platinum rule to those groups in our society who are disadvantaged, who are marginalized, people who, for whatever reason, are denied involvement in mainstream economic, political, cultural, social, and yes, religious activities. And specifically, how this plays out in our Unitarian Universalist congregations. Our second UU principle refers to justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. For Unitarian Universalist Julie Snee, this principle, quote, points us to the larger community It gets at collective responsibility. It reminds us that treating people as human beings is not simply something we do one-on-one, but something that has systemic implications and can inform our entire cultural way of being. She illustrates the difference between equity, the word used in our second principle, equity, and equality, by way of the cartoon on your screen. Here are three people. One is tall, one is of medium height, and one is short. They're all trying to watch a ball game, as you can see on the left, but there's a fence in the way. If we approach this problem using equality, we give them each a box to stand on, an equal box. The box doesn't help the tall person, as he can see over the fence without it. And a single box isn't enough for the shortest person. If we apply an equitable solution instead, all three can watch the game because they are given what they need based on their individual situation. They are given what they need based on their individual situation. That is the essence of the Platinum Rule. Several years ago, UUs and the disability community, along with their allies, began a campaign to change the lyrics to the popular UU hymn, Standing on the Side of Love. The proposal was met with great resistance, and I know, because at the time I was the UUA liaison to Equal Access, an organization advocating for the greater inclusion of people with disabilities in congregational life. The effort to change the song lyrics was stalled for several years until eventually it was changed to Answering the Call to Love. And guess what? The world didn't end. When an underrepresented group asks everyone else to refer to them in a specific way, LGBTQ people, people with disabilities, people of color, it's important that everyone listen to that request and adapt. It's not political correctness. It's showing reverence. It's the Platinum Rule in action. Much of the content of my talk today includes excerpts from the report of the UUA Commission on Institutional Change, which I accepted the reading this morning from, entitled Widening the Circle of Concern. Appointed in 2017, this commission analyzed structural and systemic racism and white supremacy culture within Unitarian Universalism and makes recommendations, quote, that redeems the essential promise and ideals of Unitarian Universalism, unquote. For those of us who are white, the terms systemic racism and white supremacy can push our buttons, can cause us anxiety, even anger, and put many of us on the defensive. So let's put it out there. For a long while, it did that for me. But delving deeper into these issues with an objective and hopefully a compassionate eye helped me to see that this problem was not only something that I needed to deal with personally, but something that our congregations need to address as well. Over the past several months, I have worked virtually with a number of congregations doing mission, vision, and covenant work. In almost all cases, and usually when imagining a vision for the congregation, the word diversity is invoked. Congregations say that they want to be more diverse, which usually means racially diverse. They understand that their congregation is primarily, in some cases, exclusively white, and they want to change that. But rarely in my work with congregations do members explore what it would mean to be diverse. They pay lip service to the idea of diversity in their congregation, but rarely back it up with actions that would result in a more diverse congregation. Here is an excerpt from the Widening the Circle of Concern report, in which a person of color offers testimony. She writes, "We have begun engaging in a process of visioning for our congregation. One of the first actions was to give everyone an opportunity to write or draw something indicating where they hoped the congregation would go in the future. Then people were given blue stickers so that they could attach the dots to the things on the list that they most liked. You may have participated in a retreat or exercise of a similar nature. A lot of people," she writes, "put their blue dots next to the wish of becoming more diverse. But there were no blue dots next to becoming more anti-racist." She concludes her testimony by asking, how are we going to become more diverse unless we commit ourselves to acting against racism? The point underlying this testimony, at least for this congregation, is I want to diversify as long as I don't have to actually do anything to change myself, and as long as the congregation doesn't have to change. In so many of our congregations, we want to welcome people of color into the fold, but we don't think to change our rituals, our music, our order of service, our sermon topics, to help people of color and other marginalized groups to embrace the congregation more comfortably as their spiritual home. Instead, we expect them to conform to our way of doing church. We treat them the way we want to be treated, not necessarily the way they want to be treated. Now, change, particularly systemic change, is hard and is often met with intense resistance. We've all seen that in our congregations. Why? Because the system naturally wants to return to the status quo, a phenomenon known as homeostasis, a self-regulating process by which the system tends to maintain stability while adjusting to conditions that are optimal for survival. In many of our congregations, becoming diverse sounds really good, but the practical application of becoming more diverse represents a threat to the stability of the congregation and even its continued existence. Following the golden rule promotes that stability. Following the platinum rule threatens to disrupt that stability. I would like to share with you just a few unique examples of how congregations have acted on their commitment to be more diverse. The UU Fellowship of Center County in State College undertook a project to help several Japanese American couples become better connected in the congregation, including inviting them to translate the UUA's principles and sources into Japanese so they could post it in their building as a way of showing visitors that they are thinking about diversity. The First UU Church of Columbus, Ohio, regularly invites ministers of color to speak at their Sunday services. And as a result, the congregation has become more open about issues of racism and classism. The First Unitarian Universalist Church in Ann Arbor, Michigan, hosts a series of films centering on race relations and being marginalized in America. In Englewood, New Jersey, the UU congregation of the Palisades has made a commitment to focus every sixth sermon on an anti-oppression theme. They also have a postcard marketing campaign that reaches out to diverse neighborhoods. The First UU Church in Nashville has supported a campaign by housekeepers, groundskeepers, and food service workers at Vanderbilt University to win a living wage. Numerous other congregations sponsor book discussions, hold workshops, and conduct seminars to increase knowledge, awareness, and sensitivity to issues impacting on marginalized populations. Individually, they are all drops in a bucket, but those drops over time add up, and eventually they can lead to real systemic change. Now, if truth be told, my congregation, the UU Church of Delaware County, is a good example of one that is doing some things, but not nearly enough. We are active members in UU Justice, Pennsylvania. We contribute to the Media Food Bank and participate in the NAACP Scholarship Fund. We host families who are homeless through the Family Promise Program. We have an anti-racism coalition that meets regularly and sponsors workshops. We do all that. But there is so much more that we can and should be doing. The city of Chester, which is just a couple of miles from our congregation, is one of the poorest municipalities in the country. There are a number of community agencies established in the city to help its citizens. Yet, to my knowledge, only a handful of congregants are volunteering their time and talent in support of these organizations. Our congregation rarely, if ever, invites people of color to speak or lead a worship service. We don't collaborate with Black and other churches in the area to jointly support social justice issues. We formally adopted the 8th principle last year and are very proud of that, but we have done very little to actualize its mandate of building a multicultural community and dismantling racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Although I am proud to say that I am now part of our congregation's task force that is studying the Widening the Circle of Exchange report with an eye to identifying barriers and solutions that will enable us to fully live into the 8th principle. So I am optimistic. I want to conclude this morning's message with one more quote from Julie Snee, who we heard from earlier. She writes, "When we start recognizing how others are unique and treating them based on their individual needs, it becomes easier to see the needs of people on a larger scale. We can start to see how people of varying cultures, races, genders, and gender identities, sexual orientation, ages, ability, and socioeconomic status have distinct needs in order to achieve the same levels of success in society. And once we have a better understanding of what those challenges are, we can work together towards equitable change. We can become allies to groups of people who are different from us. We can fight for more equitable laws and justice for all people. We can make this world a better place for everyone. So may it be. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mark. You've certainly given us a lot to think about today. That was good. Now is the time in our service when we recognize and lift up one another in love. Let us be fully present and listen with open hearts. If you wish to share a joy or a sorrow today, please click on Reactions on your computer and then click Raise Hand, and we will help you to unmute. If this is not an option for you, then just wave your hand. For everybody's benefit, please be brief. Alrighty then. Okay.
Roseanne.
Roseanne, we good? You should be able to unmute now. There you go.
Hello?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Okay. I would just like some prayers for me and Gary that on Thursday we're traveling to a couple different spots. We're going to Charlotte first with my brother and sister-in-law. Then he's golfing in Myrtle Beach for a week. And then we're going with the guy he's golfing with to San Diego where they live for a week. So we'll be traveling for about 2.5 weeks, coming and going. And I would just like you to keep us in thought and prayers as to, I'm a little nervous about the plane because I haven't been on the plane yet since the pandemic and keeping the mask on for that long. So give me a thought when we do that. We're leaving on the day before Halloween for San Diego. So thank you.
We can definitely do that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Bill and Jane.
Hang on. Okay.
Okay. You should be able to unmute.
Yeah, okay.
We can hear you.
Appropriate to Mark's service today. I remember one time in our fellowship, I don't know how many of us are left at that time, when we invited a group from a Black church in Philadelphia. They came because they had instruments and they were going to play music for us, their music. And they also brought drums and things like that and gave it to us to work with them and play with them. And we had a wonderful time. I think that was, well, it's memorable because it's still in my heart. At the end, they invited us to come to their church in Philadelphia. And to my awareness, there's only one of us that went. There may have been another. But I think that was an opportunity for us to really go to a different church and be with them as they were with us. They didn't mind coming to a white church. I shouldn't think we would have any feeling about going to a Black church, or shouldn't have enough bad feeling. That's my memory.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I always enjoy going to other churches' services, and now with so many Zoom services, it's easier than ever.
Anyone else?
Would anyone else like to share something before we move on? All right, we will always have more time in our coffee hour as well. So whether or not you shared today, for your joys, we in this community join you in celebration. And for any sorrows or concerns, may you feel our sympathy and our compassion. Let's pause for just a moment of silent meditation, gratitude, and prayer. And for our closing song, Avi has chosen a beautiful hymn for us.
Please join me in the 2 verses of hymn number 318, We Would Be One. We would be one, as now we join in singing our hymn of love, to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what is in us true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service. With love and justice, strive to make us free.
Thank you, Avi. Please join me as I read our closing words and we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish our chalice, but we keep its light in our hearts. May it light our path as we leave this place and guide our way until we are together again. Our service is now concluded. You're certainly welcome to stick around for our very informal coffee hour. And you can now unmute yourself and chat. And if you want to see everybody's shining face, go ahead and put it in gallery view. And I'd like to be the first to thank you, Mark, for a really great talk today.